Hello and welcome to the channel. Today I'm going to give you guys a quick and easy guide on how to use the Engineer class in Deep Rock Galactic. The Engineer is strong and can arguably be considered the strongest in the game. The Engineer is my favorite Dwarf to play in the game. It has an array of weapons that make it excel at traversing terrains, taking out large groups of enemies, and just being overall a strong class and a great class to bring for your team. So starting off, the Engineer will start off with the Warthog Auto 210 as its primary, which is a semi-auto shotgun. The Warthog is great for up-close encounters and taking out large groups of enemies. The shotgun excels at taking out smaller enemies such as Glyphids and Macteras, but may not hit as hard against more armored enemies such as Praetorians and Oppressors. Gear modifications that I suggest for the Warthog would be overstuffed magazine for increased magazine size, loaded shells for increased shell count, quick fire ejector for increased reload speed, tungsten coated buckshot for armor breaking, and minor adjustments for increased fire rate, or as the rest of the DRG community would refer this to as the spot that it's in the category. So it would be 2, 2, 2, 1, and 2. The overclocks that I suggest using for the Warthog would be the two clean overclocks, first one being Stunner, which gives an increase in stun chance as well as bonus damage versus stunned enemies. The second one would be the lightweight magazines, which give an increase of maximum ammo and faster reload time. The most popular one and the one that I use the most often is the unbalanced overclock mini shells, which gives an increase to maximum ammo, larger magazine size, less recoil at the cost of raw damage, and the ability to stun targets. The second primary weapon for the Engineer is the stubby voltaic submachine gun that you can get from the weapon assignment unlocked at level 10. The stubby deals electric damage. No enemies are currently weak to electric damage. The stubby has a decent range with some recoil, but the recoil is easy enough to manage. The gear modifications I suggest for the SMG would be upgraded capacitors for increased electric damage, recoil dampener for less recoil, high velocity rounds for increased damage, hollow point bullets for increased damage to weak points, and electric arc for a chance for the electricity to bounce from one target to another. The overclocks that I suggest for the stubby would be the clean overclock super slim rounds for extended magazine and reduced spread, but lightweight rounds work well too as it gives you a larger ammo pool with a sacrifice to fire rate and damage. The secondary starter weapon the Engineer has is the Deep Core 40mm PGL, which is a powerful weapon that can deal with large crowds of enemies. The ammo supply isn't big, but there are upgrades that can combat the low ammo. The PGL is strong and has a large blast radius, so don't fire it too close to friendlies. The gear modifications I suggest for the Deep Core 40mm grenade launcher will be extra ammo for increased ammo capacity, larger payload for more area of effect, incendiary compound to set enemies on fire, nails plus tape for more area of effect damage, and spiky grenade for increased damage. The most popular overclocks for the PGL is the clean overclock clean sweep, which gives a large area of effect and more damage. But there is an overclock for the PGL that is worth an honorable mention as it is really fun. That's the RJ250 compound, which is a balanced overclock with lower damage output, but you get to ride the blast wave. So what you're able to do with the 250 compound is essentially launch yourself across caverns, or you can even launch yourself up to areas that you could not normally get to, or that you would have to platform to, and it makes it a lot faster. The next secondary you can get for the Engineer is the Breach Cutter. The Breach Cutter is a very strong weapon and can take down large armored enemies very quickly. The Breach Cutter, in my opinion, is arguably the strongest in the game as the plasma can go through walls. The gear modifications I suggest for the Plasma Breach Cutter would be high capacity magazine for increased magazine size, condensed plasma for increased damage, quick deploy so the plasma can open quicker to hit more enemies, armor breaking for increased armor damage, and triple split line to add 2 more streams of plasma. This doesn't add more damage, it just increases the range of the plasma. The overclocks that I suggest would be lightweight cases for increased ammo and faster reload, or stronger plasma current for increased damage and extended projectile time. The first gadget for the engineer is the automated turret. The automated turret is great to cover you and your allies. The gear modifications I suggest for the turret would be the leg Mark II for longer range and greater ammo capacity, quick deploy so it can be set up faster, hardened rounds for armor breaking, and defender system for increased shot power and scan angle. The second gadget the engineer can use is the platform gun. The platform gun shoots a yellow disc-like platform that can be used for traversing terrain, or the scouts can use the platform to get minerals and other items. The gear modifications I suggest for the platform gun is expanded ammo bags for increased ammo, Plascrete Mark II for shock absorption to reduce fall damage, and repellent additive. Enemies will avoid walking on your platforms whenever possible. For armor, I use the same setup for each dwarf. I use improved generator for faster shield regen, overcharge so your shield can absorb more damage, hazmat system which is unique to engineer for reduced poison damage, and static charge. When your shield breaks, it will release a static charge that can stun nearby enemies. When it comes to the grenades for the engineer class, there aren't any that I suggest from one over the other. The first one is the lure, or the laser utility refraction emitter, which when thrown will project a hologram of a dwarf dancing, which will draw enemies to it, which is great for when you need to get out of a situation when you're surrounded by enemies. The second grenade is the plasma burster, and is exactly what it says. When thrown, it will release 4 bursts of plasma in rapid succession, and you can carry up to 6 of them with an damage of 60 and a burst effect of 3.5. The last grenade for the engineer class is the proximity mine, and when thrown it will stick to any surface and will explode when enemies come near. The carried amount for this grenade is 4 with an arming time of 3. The area damage is 110 with an effect radius of 5. Things to remember when playing engineer is to remember always help your team. And so that your scout and the rest of your teams don't hate you, make sure you platform, platform, platform.
Platform! Platform! Platform!
A key thing to remember as well is to make sure that your turret is always up and running and covering your back or your teammates' back. Make sure you're always reloading it and setting it up in an advantageous position for you and your team. So there you guys have it. There's a quick, basic, and easy guide on how to use the engineer and what to do. Get out there, do some mining, and remember, always rock and stone. Please like and subscribe.